You know that feeling. You leave a meeting. You're halfway down the hallway, or maybe already on the bus, and suddenly it hits you. Oh, I should have said that. And it just stays with you.
Yeah, that moment where everything becomes clear. Just a little too late.
Exactly. Welcome to Ethan and Claire, the Canadian Workplace Guide. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Claire.
If you're new to Canada, take a breath. You're not alone in this. There are so many small moments at work that don't get talked about, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and honestly, it happens to more people than we think.
It really does. So let me paint a situation. There's someone, we'll call him Daniel. He's been in Canada for about 8 months. Smart guy, very capable. He works in a small team, and they have weekly meetings. One day, his manager asks a question about a project timeline. Daniel knows the answer. He's been working on it all week. But he hesitates. Just for a second. And in that second, someone else jumps in.
Yeah.
And it's not even a better answer, just faster. The meeting moves on. Daniel doesn't say anything after that. He sits there, listening, nodding, but he's quiet. After the meeting ends, one of his coworkers turns to him and says, "Oh, I didn't know you had insights on that. You should have said something." And Daniel just smiles. But inside, it stings a bit.
Yeah, that kind of comment can stay with you.
It really can. So later that day, he's at his desk. And now, all the sentences come. Clear, confident, well-structured. He even practices them in his head. I could have said this. I should have explained that. And if I added this point, it would have made sense. But now, the moment's gone.
Oh man, yeah.
And this doesn't just happen once. It starts becoming a pattern. In meetings, he thinks but doesn't speak. After meetings, he speaks, but only to himself.
Oof, that's a tough place to be.
Yeah. And over time, something shifts. His manager starts relying more on the people who speak up quickly. Not necessarily the best ideas, just the most visible ones.
That makes sense.
And Daniel, he starts feeling like maybe he's just not good at speaking. Maybe he's not that type of employee. So he stays quiet even more.
Yeah, I think a lot of people experience that, especially when they're adjusting to a new work culture.
Exactly. And here's the thing. It's not that Daniel lacks ideas. It's not that he lacks English skills. It's that in the moment, something holds him back. So why does this happen? Why do we think of the perfect thing to say only after it's too late?
Yeah, I've wondered that too.
One big reason is processing time. In many cultures, especially outside of North America, conversations have more space. You listen fully, you think, then you respond. But in a lot of Canadian workplaces, conversations move a bit faster. There's more overlap. People speak while thinking.
So it's not always fully prepared thoughts?
Exactly. It's more like thinking out loud. And if you're used to thinking before speaking, that can feel uncomfortable.
That makes sense. So what you're saying is, it's not that someone is slow, it's just a different rhythm?
Yes, that's a great way to put it. Different rhythm. Another reason is self-monitoring. When you're working in a second language, part of your brain is always checking, is this correct? Does this sound professional? Am I saying this the right way?
Yeah, that internal filter can be pretty strong.
And that filter slows you down. Just enough that someone else jumps in first.
Heh, yeah, that tiny delay makes a big difference.
It really does. And then there's confidence, but not in the usual way. It's not about believing you're smart. It's about believing that your unfinished sentence is still worth saying.
That's interesting.
Because in Canadian workplaces, people often speak even when their idea is still forming. It's okay to be a bit messy. It's okay to adjust mid-sentence.
So perfection isn't expected?
Not at all. But if you think it is, you'll wait. And when you wait, the moment passes. So, what can you do instead?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
One thing that might help is starting before you feel 100% ready, not rushing, just allowing yourself to begin. For example, instead of waiting for a perfect answer, you could say, "Yeah, I have a thought on that."
Oh, that's gentle.
Exactly. It buys you time. Here's another one. Just building on that idea. It lets you join the conversation without pressure.
That feels less intimidating than jumping in with a full answer.
Right. Another phrase. I might be wrong, but now this doesn't mean you are wrong. It just softens the entry.
Haha. Yeah, it lowers the stakes a bit.
Exactly. Here's a useful one in meetings. Can I add something quickly? Short, polite, direct.
Would that work in most situations?
Most of the time. Yes, especially in team discussions. Another one. I was thinking about this earlier. It shows you've already been engaged.
That's nice. It gives context.
Yeah, let's do a quick micro practice. Imagine someone asks about a deadline. Instead of staying silent, you could say, "Yeah, I've been looking at that. I think we might need an extra day."
That sounds natural.
Exactly. You don't need a perfect explanation right away. Just start. Another micro practice. Someone shares an idea and you want to respond. You could say, "That's interesting. I'm wondering if we could also try."
Oh, I like that it feels collaborative.
That's key. In Canada, conversations often build rather than compete. One more. If you missed your chance earlier, you can still come back. Hey, just circling back to what we discussed earlier, I had another thought.
That's really helpful. So the moment isn't completely lost.
Exactly. You can re-enter the conversation later. Over time, this becomes less about speed and more about participation.
Yeah, it sounds like you're training yourself to stay in the flow.
That's a great way to put it. And here's the upgrade. Instead of asking, "Did I say the perfect thing?" you start asking, "Did I stay part of the conversation?"
That shift feels important.
It is. Because when you stay engaged, even imperfectly, you become visible. And visibility builds trust.
That makes sense. People start to recognize your voice.
Exactly. Let's be honest for a moment. That feeling, "I should have said that," it can be frustrating. Sometimes even a bit discouraging.
Yeah, it can make you question yourself.
It can. But it doesn't mean you're bad at communication. It just means you're still adjusting to a new conversational style, and that takes time.
Yeah, that's really reassuring.
One cultural tip that might help. In Canadian workplaces, silence is often interpreted differently. If you stay quiet, people might assume you don't have anything to add. Not because they think you're incapable, just because that's the norm here.
So, speaking even a little changes how people see your involvement?
Exactly. It signals engagement, it shows presence, and it invites others to include you more.
That's a subtle but powerful shift.
So here's something to reflect on. The next time you leave a meeting and think, "I should have said that," pause for a second and ask yourself, what stopped me in that moment?
Yeah.
Was it timing? Was it uncertainty? Was it waiting for perfection? Because once you see the pattern, you can gently start changing it.
I like that. It feels doable.
If this resonates with you, you're definitely not alone. A lot of people, especially newcomers, go through this exact experience, and it does get easier with practice.
Yeah, and even small changes can make a big difference over time.
Exactly. So next time, you don't need the perfect sentence, just a small beginning.
Yeah.
And that's enough. We'll see you next time.
Take care.